All right, so you know you're here because you want to stay ahead of the curve, you want to know what's happening and how it's going to affect you, right?
Absolutely. And today we are looking at a really big development coming out of Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon's opening up access to their next generation AI models, what they're calling Amazon Nova.
Very exciting stuff.
Yeah, so we're going to try to break it down for you today in this deep dive. We're going to look at an article that came out on March 31st, 2025, directly from Amazon,
Right from the source.
straight from the horse's mouth.
And the goal here really is just to understand what Amazon Nova is all about, who can use it, why it might be relevant or interesting to you, our listener,
Yeah.
someone who's really interested in keeping up with the cutting edge of technology.
Yeah, so let's just jump right into it. What is Amazon Nova?
Well, the article calls it Amazon's new generation of state-of-the-art foundation models.
Okay, that's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
Right.
But I think what's really interesting is if you look at some of the language that they're using, they talk about frontier intelligence and industry-leading price performance.
Okay.
So they're really signaling here, I think, that they're not just iterating on existing technology. They're aiming for something that is, a big leap forward in terms of capabilities. And they're also mindful of cost, which, of course, is really important if they want widespread adoption.
Right, making it accessible.
And, they also mentioned that these models are able to generate text from different modalities,
Okay.
which implies that they're pretty versatile. They can work with different types of input and output.
Right.
So it's not just one thing.
So let's actually break down the different types of models that they're talking about, because the article lists 5 specific Amazon Nova models.
Yeah.
So can you just walk us through those?
Sure. So first of all, for text generation, they've got 3 different models.
Okay.
They've got Nova Micro, which is probably designed for speed and efficiency in simpler tasks.
Got it.
Then they've got Nova Lite, which is probably a good all-rounder, kind of the workhorse of the group.
Okay.
And then they've got Nova Pro, which we can assume is their most powerful text model
Yeah, the big dog.
for handling really complex generation tasks.
So they've got the whole spectrum covered there.
Yeah, they do. And then they've also got 2 models that go beyond text.
Right.
So they've got Nova Canvas for creating images
Okay.
and Nova Reel for generating video.
Interesting.
And both of those can work from either text or image inputs.
So that's cool. So you can give it like a description or another image and it can generate something new based on that.
Exactly.
Now, the article highlights that the text models are incredibly fast, capable, and cost-effective.
Right.
And then the Canvas and the Reel, they're really focused on high quality in those images and videos.
That's right.
So they're going for both speed and quality here, depending on your needs.
It seems that way.
It's
It's interesting because Amazon actually first introduced Amazon Nova back in December at the reInvent conference.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and at that time, access was primarily for AWS customers and Amazon's own internal teams.
So it was kind of in beta for a while, or early access?
Yeah, and they were using it within their Amazon Bedrock service.
And just to remind our listeners, Bedrock is basically their platform that gives you access to a whole bunch of different foundation models.
Right, from different AI companies.
Not just their own.
Right.
So it's this marketplace almost
Yeah.
of AI models. So Nova was kind of quietly sitting in there for a while.
It was. But now it seems like the game is changing a little bit because they've launched this new website, nova.amazon.com.
So what's the significance of this? Why are they making this wider access?
Well, I think this is a pretty deliberate move to democratize access to these models. This new website makes it much easier for developers or just tech enthusiasts to really get in there and see what Amazon Nova can do.
Right.
Rohit Prasad, who's the SVP of AGI at Amazon, he says that the website puts the power of Amazon's frontier intelligence into the hands of every developer and tech enthusiast.
Strong words.
Strong words.
Yeah.
And the goal there seems to be to really inspire builders to start experimenting rapidly with these models and then think about how they might scale those ideas up using Amazon Bedrock.
Right. So first you play around on the website, get a feel for it, and then you can kind of graduate to Bedrock if you want to do more serious stuff with it.
Exactly. And I think what's potentially really exciting here is not just the models themselves, but the fact that Amazon is making them so widely available so quickly.
Right.
Because that could really accelerate adoption and lead to some really interesting applications that we haven't even thought of yet.
Absolutely. And I'm sure Amazon's got a few ideas of their own about how they want people to use this.
They do.
So let's talk about how someone would actually use the website. Like, how does it work? What can you do there?
Well, the article gives a pretty clear description.
Okay.
So for text generation, you're going to look for a button that says New Session.
Okay.
And then you'll find a drop-down menu where you can choose which of the Nova text models you want to use.
Okay.
Microlight or Pro.
Easy enough.
And then for the visual stuff,
Yeah.
there are dedicated buttons.
Okay.
So for Nova Canvas, there's a Generate Image button.
That makes sense.
And for Nova Reel, they actually have a Explore Video Gallery where you can see some examples of what Nova Reel can do.
So you can kind of get inspired by what they've already created.
Yeah, they're kind of showing off a
A
little
little bit.
which is fine.
So, and this is all available for U.S. customers
Right.
right now, right?
Anyone with an Amazon account can go check this out.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Pretty cool.
Pretty cool. So you can really get a firsthand feel for the current state of Amazon's AI.
Okay, so far we've been talking about generating text and images.
Right. But the article also talks about this thing called Amazon Nova Act,
Yes,
which seems like it's a whole other level of AI almost.
it does.
So tell me about this.
Well, Amazon Nova Act is a new AI model that is designed to perform actions within a web browser.
Okay, hold on.
So we're talking about an AI that can actually navigate a website,
Whoa,
interact with elements on a website,
that's pretty wild.
and complete tasks for you online.
So it can like fill out forms and stuff?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
And to give developers a chance to start working with this, they're releasing a research preview of the Amazon Nova Act SDK,
Right.
which you can download from nova.amazon.com.
So this SDK is basically a set of tools that developers can use to start playing around with this?
Yeah, to experiment with this action-oriented model.
Okay.
It's an early version.
It's an early version, but still, it's kind of mind-blowing.
It is. But, we keep talking about agents.
Right.
What does Amazon actually mean by that?
Yeah.
Because it's a word that gets thrown around a lot in AI these days.
Right.
So Amazon defines agents as systems that can complete tasks and act in a range of digital and physical environments on behalf of the user.
Okay.
So that's pretty broad.
Yeah, very broad.
They do acknowledge that, this is a very early stage
Yeah.
of development.
Right.
But they present the Nova Act SDK as a crucial step towards building agents that are actually reliable and useful.
Okay, so how does this SDK make those agents more reliable?
Well, the article talks about breaking down complex tasks into what they call atomic commands.
Okay, what is an atomic command?
So think of an atomic command as a very basic building block of an online task.
Okay.
It's like the AI equivalent of clicking a button or filling in a field or selecting an option.
Right.
So by breaking down these complex workflows into these very small, manageable steps,
Okay.
it gives you a lot more control
Makes sense.
and predictability.
Yeah, if you can really define each step very carefully.
Right. And so these atomic commands could be things like search or checkout or answer questions about the screen.
Okay.
And developers can actually add very specific instructions to each of these commands.
Okay.
So the article gives an example of don't accept the insurance upsell.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
And you can also integrate these atomic commands with existing APIs, which makes the agent even more powerful and reliable because it can access information and functionality from other systems.
Right. It's not just limited to what's on that one website.
Exactly.
And the article even talks about Nova Act being able to search for apartments based on like biking distance to a train station,
Right.
which seems really complex.
It is because you have to understand location,
Right. Yeah.
transportation.
So to filter results.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there.
And I think this really illustrates how we're moving beyond just AI that generates content to AI that can actually help us
Right.
navigate and interact with a digital world.
So who's all this for? Who should be checking this out?
Well, the article lists a few key groups. They talk about builders testing model behavior.
Right.
So if you're someone who really likes to get under the hood
Yeah.
and understand how these AI models work,
Tinkerers.
tinkers, this is for you.
Yeah.
They also talk about business professionals exploring new AI capabilities.
Right.
So if you're thinking about how AI might transform your industry or your work,
Yeah.
this gives you a way to experiment.
To play around with it.
And then, of course, there are the creatives looking for inspiration
Right.
who want to see what's possible with Nova Canvas and Reel.
Yeah.
And then finally, and maybe most importantly, developers interested in experimenting with an agent.
Right.
So if you're interested in building the next generation of AI,
This is kind of like the bleeding edge.
this is it.
Yeah. And all of this really seems to be part of Amazon's larger strategy
It does.
to bring generative AI to the masses. And And they're not just talking the talk. They're also walking the walk because they point to some of their existing generative AI applications,
Right.
like Alexa plus Ben,
Mm-hmm.
Amazon Q,
Yes.
Rufus.
Right.
These are all products that are using generative AI in different ways.
They are. And of course, we can't forget Amazon Bedrock,
Right.
which is designed to make it easier for developers to build and scale generative AI applications.
Yeah, and Bedrock is kind of platform agnostic.
It
You
is.
can use it with models from different providers.
Right.
So it's this kind of umbrella service that they've got.
It is. And it seems like Amazon Nova is really the next step in that evolution,
Yeah.
offering both more powerful models and new ways to interact with them.
So if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, gotta check this out, what should you do?
Well, the article's pretty clear.
Okay.
If you're a US-based customer with an Amazon account,
Okay.
go to nova.amazon.com.
Easy enough?
You can interact with the models directly, or if you're a developer, you can download the Amazon Nova Act SDK.
Get your hands dirty.
And there's even a link that says, learn more about Amazon Nova Act if you want to go deep.
Right.
So they're really making it easy to get started.
Yeah, they are. So I guess just to kind of bring it all together today, we've learned that Amazon is really making a big push to make their advanced Amazon Nova AI models more accessible.
That's right.
And they're not just focused on content creation, they're also really pushing the boundaries of AI agents with this Amazon Nova Act SDK.
And that's exciting because it could really change how we interact with the web.
Yeah, it's not just about AI generating stuff anymore. It's
Yep.
about AI doing stuff,
Acting in the world.
potentially on our behalf, which is
Wow.
kind of scary, but also really exciting.
It is. And so, as you go about your day today, I want you to think about this.
Okay.
How might the ability to build AI agents that can navigate websites and perform tasks
Yeah.
change your online experience?
Right.
What new opportunities might this create?
Yeah.
What new challenges might it present?
Some food for thought.
Definitely something to ponder.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for joining us.